Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. Trust you had a great weekend. The murals that mushroomed on the walls around the military headquarters in Khartoum, according to Saad Abedin, Hemeti's gangs are spraying all over them with paint. And if you look at those murals, one of them is harking back to the French Revolution and that quote that David Pilling used by William Wordsworth, "Bliss was it in that dawn to be alive, but to be young was very heaven." The Sudanese Professionals Association is refusing further talks with the TMC following last week's killings. Here's their position. This is from Thomas Wilson. The site of the sit-in has been completely destroyed. Army trucks parked all over the city, manned by young RSF soldiers. Many look little more than teenagers. They're sitting around in the shade, eating, playing cards, all heavily armed and paid, no doubt, by the MPs. And as I said before, it's all about who owns the street, because the revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form not in the place of production, but in the street, where for a moment it stops being a cog in the technical machine and itself becomes a motor, a machine of attack, in other words, a producer of speed. And that's why they've been cleared off the street. And as Kapuscinski said, if the crowd disperses, goes home, does not reassemble, then we say the revolution is over. That was the intention. I was quoted by Agence France Presse regarding Huawei, and I said Africa is a market Huawei identified and which they conquered thanks to a very aggressive strategy based on cheap financing and speed of execution. I said, however, for African countries, this trade war may end up in a binary choice. It will be very difficult for Africa to just ignore it, I said. South Africa, the country that led global gold production for a century and extracted about half the bullion ever mined, is now Africa's second largest gold producer. It's being overtaken by Ghana. Gold is an old sector and naturally it will decline, Mantashe said. New minerals that are discovered are becoming more important. South African oil share up 10.17% year-to-date, moved higher with the gold price. The rand fell as much as 1.2% on Friday, traded as above 15.15 at one point. Decline last week was 3.4%, and now it's rebounding. Egyptian pound 16.7895, Egyptian EGX 30 up 6.72% year-to-date. Have a listen to this, it's about a minute. Okay. The greatest speech in the history of tyranny. R.I.P. Sani Abacha. You're all dissolved. Dissolved. It's just fantastic. As we said, the choice of that moment is the greatest riddle of history. Nigerian oil share is down 3.18% year-to-date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is down 1.42% year-to-date. Very interesting article in RFI Afrique about Joseph Kabila. Yuvda, an Israeli Channel 12 TV show, reveals the secrets of private intelligence firm Black Cube, involved in recent years in operations that are often borderline legal and ethical. In Congo, says the show, agents of Black Cube have crossed all the limits. Operation Coltan, launched by Black Cube, one of the most important projects led by this private intelligence company, employs a former Israeli Secret Service, Mossad, cybersecurity unit of the Israeli army. Kabila wanted to know everything that was going on at the opposition meetings. Who participates, who attacks the president. He wanted to know if there are relatives who betray him, who were the traitors, and there were traitors. Extraordinary story. And of course, in one interview at the beginning of January, he alluded to Arnold Schwarzenegger's famous quote, "I'll be back." 1.2 billion reasons Singapore tech firms think Africa is the next big thing, SCMP News. Well worth a read. I interviewed Sneha Shah of Azuri Technologies last week on Metropole, and it turns out their capital raise of $26 million is the third biggest Africa fundraise so far this year. Activists urge banks not to finance Ugandan oil pipeline. Have a read of that. That's the pipeline that's going to go to Tanga. This is from Mia Thakar via IEA Kenya, a trend of debt to GDP which has risen from 48.4% in 2013-2014 to 58.1% in 2017-2018. Tanzania stops conversion of the Kenya shilling into local currency, says the move is aimed at combating illicit financial flow, but seems to have been at the request of the Central Bank of Kenya. For those who suffer from memory loss, this is a 1 shilling note from 1943. Muranga plant 10 million Hass avocado trees. We've spoken about the crypto avocado millennial economy. That's a good idea. Business Daily via Dume Singh, Chinese disrupting the local supply chain. Apparently they've landed in Gikomba market. The Nairobi All Shares up 7.15%. The NSE 20 is down 4.71%. I like this photograph of Eliud Kipchoge walking around the roads of Eldoret. He, of course, was my guest on Mindspeak and a tremendous philosopher-athlete. And finally, the super photograph from Therese Jen via earthhero.org, Olare Moto Rogi Fire Sky. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for stopping by. Catch us on Metropole at 8 to 9 p.m. every evening.